Welcome into a special edition of Chic and Ball. I'm your host, ElzdaTruph, and on today's show, we're going to briefly talk about the players who recently entered the transfer portal. Some big names on this list, some key players that can contribute on any team. And before we talk about the players, just a quick note for you guys. When these players enter the transfer portal, no matter the sport, these scholarships are not guaranteed. Some kids end up not getting a scholarship and have to go D2 or go back home. And the university they leaving probably not gonna give them another scholarship. So it's really the Wild West for those players. They really got to know what they doing. Some compare it to free agency, but to me it's nothing like that because it ain't no regulations. As long as they got the GPA, they can go. No red shirt, they don't got to sit out a year. That being said, let's get to the biggest fish of them all, and that's 5'9" guard TOA Scott from Orange Park, Florida. She entered her name in the transfer portal, and that's after just 1 year with the Arkansas Razorbacks. She played in 20 games before going down to injury, but she's one of the most promising players in women's college basketball. She was ready to break some records and put some folks on notice. I think she still can do it, but looks like it'll be for another university. And her teammate, Sailor Poffenberger, entered her name in the transfer portal, and the Arkansas Razorbacks just losing 2 top players. She spent 2 years with the Arkansas Razorbacks, spent her freshman year at UConn. Now she putting up 13 points and 14 rebounds in the SEC, and that ain't nothing to sneeze at. She's a really good player and she has 2 more years of eligibility. Can't wait to see where she'll end up. But now let's talk about Baltimore, Maryland's own Ajay Petty. She entered her name in the transfer portal. She spent the last 2 years with the Kentucky Wildcats, spent her freshman year and sophomore year at LSU. Very tough, experienced player, coming off a year averaging 14 and 10 rebounds. She'll go to another university using her 5th and final year of eligibility. And shockingly enough, her teammate Maddie Sher also entered her name in the transfer portal. She also spent the last 2 years with the Kentucky Wildcats, so they are completely retooling in Kentucky. Maddie is a hard-nosed player, really high IQ, averaged 12.5 points last year. Zania Thomas for Kentucky didn't really play much. She also spent the last 2 years with the Wildcats, entered her name in the transfer portal as well. Now moving on to JoJo Lac. She entered her name in the transfer portal. She spent 4 years at Boston College in the ACC conference. Against some of the top teams in the nation, she's averaging about 13 points, including a 23-point game against Deja Kelly and UNC. Boston College major underdogs in that game won 78-74. JoJo's using her 5th and final year of eligibility to transfer. Can't wait to see where she ends up. And now let's talk a little bit about Hannah Gusters. 6'5", she entered her name in the transfer portal for the 4th time. She played her freshman year at Baylor. She spent 2 years at LSU. She spent last year at Oklahoma State, now potentially her 4th university. For her 5th and final year eligibility, coming off a year where she averaged 14 points on 56% shooting. Couple more notes for you guys. Kenzie Smickle, 6-foot guard, entered her name in the transfer portal. She spent the last 2 years as a Rutgers Scarlet Knight. She missed a big portion of the year, but before that, she had a big game against the Virginia Tech Hokies where she went off for 22 points. And yes, Liz Kinley and Georgia Amore were out there. 2 years of eligibility remaining. Hope she comes over to the SEC. And last quick note, within the next couple years, the WNBA is going to be adding 2 to 3 new teams. That's 20 plus professional positions open. These girls are trying to carve out their resumes and get into March Madness. So if these universities can't win, this ain't the WNBA. There's a lot of teams out there that can offer a scholarship where they can go. They trying to put themselves in position in the next couple years when those teams are added. They're the ones that's shining in March Madness and getting their name at the top of the draft board. And lastly, before I get out of here, they should probably hold this thing off until after March Madness ends because this craziness shouldn't be happening before the games even start. But let me know what y'all think about these players entering the portal. Where do you want to see them end up? March Madness is right around the corner. Drop your comments on who you think gonna win. I'm ElzdaTruph for PRNM. Talk to you on the next one.